Prize. So welcome to this special Klaus Flugge Prize celebration, and a huge thank you to Waterstones for hosting us tonight. A bit of background: this is the 9th year of the Klaus Flugge Prize, set up by the inimitable Klaus Flugge of Anderson Press, of course. And Klaus obviously has long been a supporter of picture book artists and new picture book talent, and he set up the prize with the aim of, yes, highlighting talented new illustrators, supporting them, but also really to put picture book illustration in the spotlight, because it's an overlooked art form. So that's definitely what the Klaus Flugge Prize is about. We want to start and prompt conversations about picture book illustration, and that's a lot of what tonight is about. It's also a celebration of this year's Longlist. So we had a wonderful list of submissions this year, and whittled it down to 17 books that really impressed us. So congratulations to everyone on the Longlist. I'm going to run through a list of names in a minute, and if you're here, and quite a few people are, perhaps you could stand up and give us a wave. I know it's horrible, but I think you should definitely do it, so that people can get their books signed as well. Obviously, all of the people on the long list are amazingly technically able and gifted, but what really always catches our eye is the ability to tell story through picture, to create character, to set scenes, to make us laugh, to put us in the mood, to guide readers through picture books. And congratulations to everyone, because we're really pleased with this year's long list. So, those long-listed books are, actually, I'm going to ask Petr to do the click. Oh, and again, actually, I'd have had that up all the time. So, The Slug and the Snail, illustrated by Olya Anima, written by Owen de Bardoon, editor Siobhan Parkinson, designer Louise Miller. That's published by Little Island Books and Skene Press. Picture book creation is a team project, so we're mentioning everyone who's been involved. Outside,
sorry, something it's not responding the same. No, it's just not responding.
There we go. Outside, which is illustrated by Oren Lapwing, formerly B. Chuck. The editor is Isabel Otter, the designer is Emma Jennings, and that's Little Tiger. My Bollywood Dream, illustrated by Avani Dwivedi, and that is edited by Tanya Rosie, the designer is Marta Cleary, and Deirdre McDermott is the art director. We Are a Circus, illustrated by Rosie Fencott, written by Nasta, the editor is Emma Dainwright of the Emma Press. Ning and the Night Spirits, illustrated by Adriana Fong, edited by Harriet Birkinshaw, and the art director is Lily Gottwald, that's Flying Eye Books. We Dug Up the World, illustrated by Kitty Harris. Kitty, I think you might be in the room, so if you'd like to wave, yes! If anyone has snuck in and isn't on the guest list and I mention your name, do shout. We Dug Up the World, which is written by Alexandra Stewart, the editor is Lucy Twist, and the art director is Alison Padley, and that's Lawrence King Publishing. The Crown, illustrated by Emily Kapp, editor Paulina Malinen, designers Audrey Kerry-Nagy and Marty Cleary, and the art director is Deirdre McDermott, and that's also Walker Books. I think it'll come if we just wait. Story of my life, or not.
It's not really working.
Oh, there we go. Maybe we've skipped one. Sorry.
I'm not pressing anything, but it's...
I hope it works for your slides. Anyway, you all know what they look like, and all the books are for sale at the back as well.
Sorry.
Who Owns the Woods, illustrated by Jess Mason. Jess here. And that's written by Emily Hibbs, the editor is Harriet Evans, and the designer is Maddie Pilkington, and that's Little Tiger. The Dream Book by Bea Malo. Edited by Amelia Warren, and the designer is Christopher Stanley, and that's Templar. Brilliant Black British History, illustrated by Kingsley Nabechi. Yes! Written by Atanuke, editor Sally Beats, art director Katie Nutten, and that's Bloomsbury Children's Books. Wolf and Bear, illustrated by Kate Rolfe. The editor is Suzanne Carnell and the designer is Joe Spooner, and that's Two Hoots. The Little Fear, illustrated by Luke Scriven, who wanted to be here, but his wife is ill and he's babysitting, so I think we need to feel very sorry for him. Editor Alice Blacker, art director Candice Turvey, and that's HarperCollins Children's Books. Henry and the Machine, or Henri and the Machine, illustrated by Olga Stonder, written by Isabella Marinov, editor is Sophie Hallam, the designer Anna Ring, and that's Templar again. Then Farah Loves Mangoes, illustrated by Sartak Sinha, editor is Harriet Birkinshaw, art director is Lily Gottwald, and that's Flying Eye Books. Then we have Bright Stars of Black British History, illustrated by Angela Vives. Written by J.T. Williams, the editor is Anna Ridley, and the designer is Kate Haynes, and that's Thames and Hudson. The Fossil Hunter, illustrated by Kate Winter, who I think is also here. Oh, maybe not. Edited by Anna Barnes-Robinson, Louise Rickwood, and Lara Hancock, and the designer is Monica Whelan, and that's Puffin. And then finally, number W in our list of illustrators, Animal Crackers, illustrated by Ruby Wright. And the editor is Libby Hamilton, and the designer is Ness Wood, and that's Rocketbird Books. So as I said, congratulations to everyone on the long list, and it's just been amazing having the chance to look at these books for so long. And now I'm going to hand over to Julia to introduce our special guest for tonight and to get us talking about picture book and picture book art. So thank you very much.
I don't like speaking sitting down, but if I stand up, I'm going to be sort of too tall. It's fantastic to see you all here. It's wonderful to see the illustrators. Can we have another big round of applause, please? Until you see the people who've made the books, they've got, you know, you've got one way of looking at them, and now having met, or at least seen some of you, that's really wonderful. And it is such an exciting moment seeing first picture books. This prize is for me, one of the most inspirational things I do, because I get the chance to hear illustrators, as we'll hear in a minute, our judges, some of our judges talking about what they think has gone into the making of these books. And I get the chance to think so carefully about exactly what it is that each illustrator, each new illustrator, is doing. And publishing is a very chancy business. Publishing is a very long game. And this moment, this starting moment for a young illustrator is just very, very exciting. So thank you all for everything you've contributed to this prize. And I have to just say a very particular thank you, of course, to Klaus Flugge, without whom we wouldn't be here now, but without whom a lot of you would not be having the careers you're having, because when he started publishing in the 1970s, there were, of course, lots of other good picture book publishers, some very good picture book publishers, but Klaus has been an absolute champion of international children's book publishing and the particular emphasis on international illustration. And he has helped us as readers, I feel, and as critics and as people who work in children's books to open our eyes very wide and to appreciate what the artist can do in so many clever ways. And so we thank Klaus particularly today, but also throughout the year as we go through the very long, complicated process of judging this prize. So that's the background. But without any more about all of that, I'm going to ask two of our judges, the two judges who are illustrators. We have other judges who add their own expertise, which has been very valuable too, to talk a bit about their work, so we see what it's like when your career has developed. And then we're going to have some bit of a Q&A here, and then it'll be over to you for questions. And we are running a bit late, so we'll try to keep going fast.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm starting. If it's going to work, it will be so embarrassing. Because
Petr,
I haven't done it on purpose, really. It didn't work.
Petr, you have to wait a minute. I haven't introduced you. This is Petr, Horacek, and he is now going to introduce himself.
Thank you. So I write and illustrate picture books. I was born in Prague, in the Czech Republic. Picture books, I mostly write and illustrate my own picture books, but occasionally I illustrate for somebody else. I also do board books. Now board books are probably, I take them very seriously. I think little children are not stupid and they deserve good books. They don't need to be just a little books with the colorful pictures. They should have a simple story. So my board books usually have a cutouts and shaped pages. So when you turn the page, you can see the colors. In my fruit salad, there is another one where you can chase a mouse. I mean, these, you can't see it, but these pages are cut out like this. And you can chase the mouse over the table and through the hole in the books. Important part of my works are my sketchbooks. I always keep sketchbooks next to me when I'm bored with what I'm doing, or if I hear something interesting on the radio. I will make a little drawing, complete nonsense. And sometimes I don't even know what these drawings are about, but I like to keep these sketchbooks, perhaps trying different, brilliant, oh it works. And sometimes if I like something, I make pictures. This is probably bigger than the original, but they are quite big. And again, I studied fine art, so I still paint and draw. I used to paint big abstract paintings, but now my abstract paintings met with my illustrations. So it's something in between illustration and painting. So these are things I do for myself, and it inspires me actually when I'm illustrating books, because in my books I like to use different techniques. I don't use computer, I use collage and lots of different materials. Probably mostly acrylic, but I use wax crayons and watercolors. And I choose these pictures. This is the first book where I use collage actually. It's been published, I don't know when, 2005 or something, and I use collage, and since then I never look back. So I wanted to show you a couple of examples of my work. The light isn't good here, but each of the books had slightly different technique. So I print, I scratch into polystyrene and print from it, and the background for this picture, it's oil pastel. So I use anything which is around. So material and texture is very important to me, and material inspires me to do the book. So before I start illustrating, I already know what I want to use, what kind of material I want to use. And recently, I've been working with Nicola Davis. Now, it's completely changed my work because it was by chance, and we did a first book of animals, which was shortlisted for the Kate Greenway medal. And then, as we were traveling with Nicola, we've been in Europe and we spent lots of time together. She saw my little sketchbooks, those I showed you before, and she asked me for the images from the sketchbooks, and she started to write poems based on my sketches. Now I don't know what the sketches are about, and it was interesting to know that Nicola does. And the poems were beautiful, and actually I then illustrated her interpretations of my sketches, which was a really interesting process, and we just published a book called The Star Whale. So here are the examples from the pages, and that's it from me. What I really like about this book was the variety of the materials and techniques I could try, because they are poems. I didn't need to keep the continuity. Every picture could be different. So it was kind of dream work. And Nicola Davis, you probably may know her picture books and her poems. She's very inspiring person, very nice person, and gives me all the freedom to do whatever. And working with her is great. Thank you.
That was certainly very good, and the pictures kept up with you. But I think that's such an interesting example of, we always think that the illustration follows the words, and I think you've just, with that example of Nicola interpreting your sketches into her poems, and then that is an amazingly wonderful piece of collaborative working and creativity. So that's just a lovely example to share. Because books, I mean, the interrelationship between the words and pictures can be in any way, and that's a very rich and interesting way. So thank you very much for that. Mariajo, you haven't got as long a back catalogue as Petr. having won this prize last year. So, you know, last year a debut, now an authority. That's how fast the picture book world moves. So it would be lovely if you could share some of your work with us and some of the inspiration for it. Thank you very much.
Oh, here it is.
There she is.
Right, I always feel that I like to start my presentations with this picture, kind of like to prove that I always wanted to draw. I was a really bad student, never liked school actually, but I always was drawing. So when I was 18, I jumped to I was very fortunate to get into the art school in Spain, and to study illustration, and it was just a wonderful world because I love all the subjects in the school, and I was very fortunate that someone trusted me to give me some work at that time, at the meantime that I was studying, and I started doing how do you call it, illustrations in walls, in nurseries, and some parties, decoration and things like that. And when I finished my studies, I started working in a co-working studio that I was surrounded by, sorry, I don't know if I need to use this or not. Okay, sorry. I was surrounded by other professionals, so I was very lucky to get some illustration work thanks to them, because they were designers, web developers, so they passed me some clients, like if they were doing like a website for wines or restaurants, I started drawing things like that and do little logos, and then I started printing all my illustrations in all kind of things like t-shirts, mugs and everything, and I jumped to all the design fairs that I could go and sell my artwork. But I always was very curious about design, and I think it's very it complements loads illustration. So in 2013 I moved to Bath, where I studied graphic communication, and even though it was a degree based on design, I ended up doing more illustration. And I started working with local clients. I did the Bath Fringe Festival posters. This one happened because I was always drawing in a cafe, and I tweeted their coffee machine, and the owner texted me like, "Oh, we really like it, would you like to do a postcard for our new cafe?" And then I carry on doing some work for all clients, like restaurant menus and wedding invitations. To be honest, anything that came to my email, I did. And somehow, some years later, I ended up in a designer studio designing cards for Clintons and Paper Chase. It was a very rancid job, which I hate every minute of it, because you had to be creative from 9 to 5 every day, from Monday to Friday. That is, you're not creative on a Monday at 10 a.m. So, and also I choose the best examples, but it was not great. But what I wanted to show is that even though I hate that job, I learned loads about printing processes and finishes, like, I don't know, and most importantly, lettering. So I think I'm telling you all of this just to show that for 12 or 14 years, I always feel that it was my practice years to be a book illustrator. My dream always was to do children's books, but I actually, now looking back, I think I started illustrating at the right time, because if I started illustrating when I finished my art degree, I think it would be out there things that I wouldn't be very proud. So, sorry, I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I was very fortunate on 2018 to land in the Masters in Children's Book Illustration at Anglia Ruskin. It was a master that I always wanted to do. I met Marta Altés in the co-working studio 10 years ago, and I always wanted to do it. She just finished when I met her, and I was like, oh, I need to do this, and finally some planets aligned, and I ended up there. And I love every minute of it, because for example, these are some images from the first module, which was very intense, 3 months of just drawing. So I felt that it was back to basics, forget what I knew how to do, and learn to draw again, and I really enjoy it. And there I was just basically trying to find my new voice. I learned a lot of things, like I have no clue how color works. I found it really difficult, but I love exploring new color palettes and mixing, and it was just fabulous because I was pushed, I think, in the right direction that my career needed in order to become a children's book illustrator. And I just wanted to talk to you briefly about how Flooded happened. We needed to come up with an idea for the next module, and all my colleagues came with so many ideas after summer, and I was like, I have nothing! And I have my first tutorial with Ellis Dolan, that is there, here today. And I showed her like a folder this big, and I was like, I have nothing, I have no ideas. And she was like, no you do. And I showed her this, and she was like, this image is very narrative. Who are these people? So this is how it happened. I started to question, like, who are these animals? Where are they going? What are they doing in the city? Are they rushing to work, or what is happening here? So the idea came from there. This is a little bit about the process. So what happened is, I didn't know what happened to those animals or what they were doing, but coming back from home, from uni, it was raining a lot, and I'm not a big fan of raining, so I'm not sure what I'm doing in this country. So I thought that maybe the city got flooded, and I started going from there. I started drawing the same animals, wearing goggles and bottles to breathe on the water, and flippers and wetsuits, and I went from there. Like at some point, I think I got a script for a movie. It was so long. I was trying to achieve absolutely everything. I wanted to create a great story, which I never wrote before, and I wanted to find a new visual language that it was fresher and newer to what I was working for the last few years. I was trying to achieve many things. So what happened is, at some point, I got so obsessed that this page of the escalator, I think I painted like 15 times, and I don't know, I tried acrylics, and I reiterated that I didn't know anything about color. I did collage. I don't think you can notice, but this is an Amazon box. And finally, when I was about to give up, I did like a very, very quick drawing with ink in a very bad paper that got very wrinkled, so I scanned it. It was very difficult. But actually, that was it. It was the process of doing all of that over and over again and try so many things that finally something clicked. And I showed it in a tutorial, and everyone was like, yeah, that. And that is how I look at the end in the book. This is just to show the amount of work that it was in this book. You cannot appreciate, but it was like 14 or 15 mock-ups, different versions of the book, 3 sketchbooks, and a pile like this of different artworks. And then obviously when I worked with my publisher, that pile got bigger. And these are my 3 books published so far, and I just wanted to say that I feel very fortunate and a little bit overwhelmed because the book's been, all of them, very successful. Flooded was published at the beginning with already 14 co-editions, and it's already on 23 languages. And Lost and I Hate Books are going sort of the same, so I feel very fortunate, I'm very happy. And thank you. This is a spoiler of my next book that I'm working at the moment, which, unless someone in America or someone object, I think it's going to be called Oh Carrots. And that's it.
Well, thank you both very much, and I must say, I think what both of you sort of conveyed is, A, it's very hard work, but B, what a wonderful time you've had doing it. And I mean, it can't all be wonderful, but thank you very much for sharing the great pleasure that you both get out of it, because I think that leaps off the page as well for the readers. And but you know, without disguising the hard work, it's looking at the number of times you do something. And I love the fact that you were doing a job from 9 to 5 for a whole week and every week, and that wasn't what you wanted. Now you actually answered the question which I was going to ask first, which was, when did you first see yourself as an illustrator? Because you say you knew that you wanted to do something with drawing very early on. But who were the greatest influences on you?
I always find that question very difficult. I don't know where it comes from, but since I was very little, I used to tell my parents, I want to be an artist. Actually, I used to say I want to be a painter, and my parents used to ask me, oh, a painter as in walls, and I got very annoyed because I was like, no, those ones that paint drawings. But I'm not sure. My family is not very artistic. I don't think we have many children's books in the house either. But I was very determined that I wanted to be a painter, and it's when I went to the illustration degree that I fell in love with children's books, because we were shown many.
Yes, well, once you know that's what you want to do, that's a very obvious place to go into.
Yeah.
Petr, what about you? Because you didn't say when you first started illustrating.
No, I used to study fine art, and I also worked short time in design studio, but it was during the communism, so not much to design, not much to promote really. So it was good. It gave me lots of time for painting, and so I was a painter. And as a student, I used to earn money by designing posters, which after the student revolution in '91, it was a good job because it was great. But then I met my wife, who is English, and I moved over to England. And I lost all the contacts, and I started to illustrate purely by chance. Somebody wrote a book and asked, oh, you can draw, can you do pictures? And it was just around the time when my children were born. And one of the first gifts which my daughter get from friends was The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Now everybody here knows the book, but I came from a different country where the book wasn't published, so I was 30 when I first time saw The Very Hungry Caterpillar, and I couldn't believe it. Because books I grew up were very different. And when I saw The Very Hungry Caterpillar, I thought, this is amazing, this book is going to be so successful. And then I looked at the publishing day and realized it was published in '69, 2 years after I was born. And because the book was new and smelled like a new book, to me it was a new book, and I just couldn't believe it. I just thought, where was I? And as I said, my daughter was born, and I thought, I want to do books. So that was the time.
Anyone else in the room influenced by The Very Hungry Caterpillar? I think we might have a kind of 100% show of hands. I mean, it is so interesting, that kind of universality of a book like that, and it's rather wonderful to think you hadn't come across it in your childhood, and it still made that same impact.
I heard that every minute one of the Very Hungry Caterpillars was sold, every minute in the world. Not in my country. It's changed now. It's been published in the Czech Republic as well. But during the communism, there was a very different story.
Yeah. Glad to think that Czech children will know it too.
Yeah.
And did you have any? I mean, apart from The Very Hungry Caterpillar, when you were doing your fine art, who were your inspirations for that?
When I was studying fine art, I always painted outside.
Yeah.
And actually, it's still something I was saying. Everything I know about color, I learned from landscape, painting outside. Everything I know about drawing, I learned from live drawing. I think I was always interested about it. So I painted outside, but I did abstract paintings. I like kind of geometrical abstraction almost. As you can see, my drawings are like Cy Tomboy and people like that. So the material, anything anything textured, I love that. I still do. And I think I bring it to my illustrations as well.
Yeah.
Does it answer the question?
Yes, that does answer the question.
Sorry.
And both of you, I know I think you've only illustrated your own books, haven't you? You haven't illustrated somebody else's text, but you, Petr, certainly have. What draws you to, if you must be shown texts and people say, would you like to, do you turn things down, and what would draw you?
Yeah.
In?
Well, first of all, if you illustrate for somebody else, you share the money.
I know.
So, so if I have
concentrates
my idea,
the mind.
No, but I illustrated when I was studying. I used to illustrate for maybe Korean publisher or Chinese publisher, just and then you just take what they give you. Usually I did some graphalos and not graphalos.
Someone else does.
Billy Graph.
Billy goes Graph.
That's right. Sorry. And so these classical things are fine. But in England, I illustrated for Joyce Dunbar, mother of Polly Dunbar, brilliant writer. And she said, I've got a book for you. And I really thought she wrote it for me because it was I felt so comfortable with the text. Only later on she said she didn't. She had already the text. But I suppose it was because it was for young age. And I like doing picture books for very young age. And so I kind of was in tune with it. And I love her writing. She's also a very lovely lady.
Yes.
And with Nicola, it's her probably enthusiasm and the passion for picture books and art generally. So these are two people I illustrate for in England. I don't illustrate for anybody else really. So mainly because luckily I keep getting ideas for my own picture books and don't have enough time to work for somebody. But recently I'm quite interested to try something else. I would like to, I like the challenge of perhaps illustrating for somebody else as well.
Yes, and it might push you into doing something, I mean, probably working with Nicola.
Yeah.
I mean, you and she share an interest in animals and nature, so that must have started off the connection. But she might write a story which would lead you to illustrate things you hadn't thought of doing.
Yeah, yeah. But also, I don't know if it was obvious from the pictures I show, but when I work with Nicola, the style maybe changes.
Yeah.
It's more kind of realistic and slightly different. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
And have you done any work illustrating apart from doing the greetings cards, which is a form of illustrating other people's words? And would you like to, or do you feel like, Petr, you've got enough ideas of your own?
Oh, sure. I actually illustrate someone's text last year, but yeah, definitely would love to illustrate more. I think it's quite different state of mind, because I feel when I'm writing and illustrating at the same time, if all of a sudden I say what I wanted to say with the image, I just reduce the text, and vice versa. Like if it's not clear enough, I might add some text, but it's quite different when you just receive a text and it's like, oh, this is what it is. But yeah, I really would like to illustrate some.
So can you elaborate on that process when you start on a book and you've got the text? What is it that what's the mental state you go through?
Well, I don't have much experience
no,
with
that's
this,
fine.
Well, saying that, when I receive the text, I go back to them and say, like, I don't think this story is about a parrot, it's about a monkey, and they change it.
Yeah, that's really what I was trying to get at, because I never feel that an illustrator is illustrating the words. They're illustrating something else that's said by the words, if you see what I mean. And I think that's a very, very good example of that you didn't feel that was the right thing. I
was actually quite happy that they changed it, and also surprised, but when I keep reading the text and I was like, this is not a parrot, this is a monkey. And I sent them how I visualized it, and they were like, oh yeah, you're right. And they mentioned to the author, and he was really happy to change it, so there you go.
Petr, what about you? Because you've done more of it.
Well, it's actually quite interesting, because when I illustrate my own books, I'm responsible to myself. But if I illustrate somebody else's book, I get really nervous. I feel like if I messed up somebody's work. So that's, and also I think in pictures. So when I get idea, I see the picture, maybe just one picture, and the story starts from there, and I think in pictures. Now if somebody gives you text, that's completely different process. It's exactly the opposite what I do. I have to start from words, and I found it quite challenging. The upside down process, really. So yeah, I wanted to say something else, but I forget.
You'll have a chance to say it later. Let's move on and think about the prize now, because we gathered, we had an enormous, I mean, what was the number of submissions this year? There were about 50 debut picture books this year, which, you know, is very encouraging in one sense, but quite daunting in another. And we had very interesting conversations about it. So we might just think about some of the things that we've been discussing and think about doing the prize. Did you think that there was anything that what we saw in the books in the submissions that would tell us anything about the state of picture books at the moment? I mean, apart from the fact that there are a lot of them. What did we think we kind of got out of it?
God, I forgot what I want to say. I felt that, well, first of all, I think it was overwhelming to see so much talent. It was such a beautiful list, so well illustrated, and I think what I was going to say that there were a lot of them that they were, I cannot find the word, very aware of kindness and basically the world around us. I think that was something that struck me. There were a few that they were like, wow, yeah. Sorry, I didn't explain that very well. I don't know how I want to say that.
So, are you saying that there was a lot of sort of emotional intelligence?
Yes,
Because I think that is something certainly that the way that the books are being talked about is a lot about the messages they have in terms of kindness and tolerance and understanding and all of those things.
Sorry. Sometimes I don't find the right words in English.
No, I was, first of all, we said 50 books, and so congratulations to everyone who get on the list, on this long list and then short list, because it is great achievement, to be noticed, and I think the variety of the books on the long list as well as on the short list, it's great, isn't it? It's just there was a lots of different kind of illustrations, and definitely I found the meeting very inspiring. Well, talking to you, it's always inspiring, but there was, I always think it's quite difficult for me as an illustrator to judge somebody else's illustrations. I feel not very comfortable at all, and I'm doing it just because it's so inspiring to talk to other people. And through the process of choosing the shortlisted books, I look at the book which I thought I know well, because I had these books with me for a couple of months and looking at them honestly, and suddenly somebody would mention just a detail in the book or the connection with the text, and it completely changed my idea about what I originally perhaps thought or what I missed.
Yeah,
so
I was thinking the same. Like I got with an idea of what I like or what I think about certain books, and then some of you mentioned something, and I was like, oh, that's a great point.
And people's minds would change.
And I think
conversations.
it should be like this, because we think about picture books as a special form of art, where the words are in connection with the pictures. And we look at each of us is looking at the fine art or the paintings in the galleries very different way. And it's actually this conversation and looking at picture books from different perspectives is very, very inspiring, I think.
And when we were looking at them, were there some things that, I mean, I can remember a lot of the conversations we had, but what do you think that we were sort of pulling out, in a way, from them? Was it something about the technique? Was it something about the use of the page? I mean, there's so much in a picture book, once you start dissecting it in that kind of way, and we haven't even yet mentioned the designer who is a part of this prize that we do celebrate. And we know how important that is, and that's something that you as the illustrators also work with. But were there some things, do you think, that you could immediately, when you were looking at them first time, not thinking about the meetings, did you think, yes, this is good because? Were there some sort of technical things that you felt you could recognise?
Well, again, I have to only talk about how I feel it. I look at the picture books. I look at the pictures first, to be honest. That's what attracts me first, then I read the story. But I always think picture books should be inspiring. It's the first time that a child is introduced to visual art, very often. Well, so basically I want the picture book to be inspiring, not to mean to children. So if child can see maybe the material in it, if it inspires the child to take a pencil and draw themselves, that's something I like. I personally like when it has something, when I can feel the material, when I can know what technique was used. That's something which I like to see in the books. Because really, I mean, these days people use computer a lot in their illustrations. And I think it doesn't matter, it's a tool, but if you can't draw, no software will help you, but it's funny. You still see pictures which are nice and smooth, and everything. It's lovely, and butterflies flying around. But everything it's just nice and neat, you know. But if you can't draw, then that's it really. So that's what I look for.
But do you think computer-aided design can? I mean, do you really think because not everybody does line drawing anymore, do they? So that's something that has to be sort of picked through looking at picture books, isn't it? How the work has been made.
Yeah, I've got nothing against computer. I think you use computer, don't you, as well? No, don't you?
No,
okay.
just to
okay, fine. But some people do it, and it's a tool. You know, you can draw and use computer. It's fine. Lots of people does it. It's just. I heard once Lauren Child saying, you know, the trouble is sometimes I see what button this person press. You know, the people have same software, and you end up with the books which has very similar color scheme. Everything is the same kind of similar tone, and you can see that these books got so much in common. Basically, it's the same software, and that's what bothers me, I think.
I think for me, well, we were in general quite aligned.
Yeah, we agreed. Can I just say one thing? I was in Bologna this year, and it was actually quite nice to see how actually outside of England people still paint and draw, and there is a texture. And I think it would be great if more of these foreign books from France and Spain and were published in England as well, so we can see the variety and bring something.
So are you saying there's more line illustration, more
I thought so.
life
I
drawing,
think it's more fine art.
Yeah.
That was my. But again, maybe it's just something I noticed.
Yeah.
But, what do you think?
I don't know enough about technique. I mean, I mean, I'm interested in kind of the pictures that we have at any given time and how they chime with sort of the thinking of the time. I mean, I feel the picture books, though very timeless, the best ones like The Very Hungry Caterpillar, it doesn't matter when it was published, but when you look at a whole wodge of them, you realise that they come out of a certain set of thinking in a way. And the interesting thing is seeing how the illustrator can change one's view of a subject that's covered again and again and again. And for me, that's the exciting thing, but I don't know enough about the sort of technical side. I know what people like Jan Piankowski always used to say about going to life drawing classes and why it was so important. And I think that that's less common now, so that's about the only bit of information I have. I think we're going to go over to questions from the floor. Quick piece of advice for illustrators at this stage in their career, starting out, this moment when the first book's published, the first book's on the long list for this prize. Where do you go from here? What's the most important thing to remember? You're new and can remember it because you're already hurrying along. Petr, you've changed probably more over the time.
I was so lucky at the time. The publishers had time to. I mean, when I showed my first idea for the picture book, the publisher said they didn't like it basically, but they liked something about me, about my work. So they said, let's start with the board books and see where it will take us. They had the time to make me.
To build you up.
So I think I have a feeling that it won't happen these days. It's like everything, it's a little bit,
But there's a new thing in the system. I mean, it's not really new. I mean, I don't know, Martin, when did you start your course? But the new thing now is there is a much more teaching of illustration, isn't there, than when you started your career.
Yeah.
And maybe that's another way where people can help you develop before you get to the publisher.
Well, that's why also these, this prize, that's just so great, isn't it? It helps starting illustrators a great deal, it makes you visible, that's great.
What would your bit of advice be?
I always forget, you talk too much. Just joking. I was going to say that I think, like you said, it's more teaching illustration, and it's more, obviously social media and internet and all that is great because you have more access, like
Other people's
publishers
work,
will
yeah.
see your work
Yeah.
more easily, but also it's more competition. So I will just say, like, keep going and keep drawing. I think we were quite aligned when we were discussing the books. Like, I think you need to know how to draw in order to undraw or draw in the way that you want to draw. Otherwise, it's quite easy to spot that it's not, something is missing or failing there. So I would say just carry on drawing and keep following what you pursue, what you want to do, and keep going. If you want to be there, it will happen. It just took me like 14 years, so I got there finally. But I see my work obviously I show things that they were sort of successful, but my work 17 years ago wasn't like it looks today. So now I understand why I got so many no's, because I've been going to the Bologna Children's Book Fair since then, and I joined those massive queues and all that, and now I understand that I just needed to keep going because I wasn't ready.
And it's a hard work as well, because I was recently mentoring one boy, helping. Sometimes I work with students. There is a picture hook kind of project, and basically I would say to somebody, we will talk about the work, I will give him my advice. I said, send me your ideas next week, and nothing happened for a month. I mean, it doesn't exist. Even when I was designing, somebody said, can you do this and draw people in it? And I don't like drawing people. And they said, do you draw people? And I would say, yeah, that's what I do. And all night I will draw the little child until I learn how to do it. Just kind of really working hard. Yeah. And it's something which is not going to change. If you don't work hard, you don't get anywhere. Yeah. That's what I think.
Okay, guys, that's the message. Well, I think it's been the most wonderful conversation, and there's a massive messages surrounding all of that. And so thank you both very much for sharing your experiences. That is just a really beautiful conversation. Over to questions from the floor. There's a roving mic, and you could have another one. Has anybody got a question? Over there, the mic's coming.
I don't know if this is a total question, but it arises out of Julia's comment about the internationalism that Andrea's comment about the internationalism that Klaus Flugge has always championed. And you are both working in this country. But it just struck me as you were talking, do you feel that you are also rooted in the illustrative practice or the art that has come out of your respective countries? And Petr, I'm not necessarily your countries, but the areas. I actually think, looking at your work, Kandinsky, Chagall, ideas like that, and Mariajo just suddenly striking me thinking, actually, the narrative in your things, I think Goya. And are you aware? Do you think? This I think is quite important for the illustrative work in this country, that we get people who come in with a different background. And though we all say, oh, a picture is worth 1,000 words, my experience as a librarian is that actually international illustration can be quite difficult. People do have languages in illustration. Do you feel this? Is that a question? Yeah. Is it all right?
No, I found this interesting because even my publisher once said that my books are too Czech, and I was thinking, what is Czech illustration? I really honestly don't know. I mean, I love Jiří Šalamoun. I don't know, nobody would probably know these names, but the variety of what happened, it's quite interesting. What happened during communism? There were lots of fine artists who couldn't exhibit because the system didn't like that. So the only way how they could make money was illustrating books for children. So the variety of illustration is great. And I really can't point out finger what is typically Czech illustration. So I assume what it is, maybe some kind of, we always try to get some message into the book and maybe kind of sentiment in it as well. I don't know what it is. But for me it's very hard. I understand that my illustrations are different from what you would consider to be classic English illustration. Yeah. That's for sure. But I really don't can't really find out answer to myself really. I don't know. I don't know what makes, you know, I don't know.
It's what you see all around you, isn't it? I mean,
I suppose.
I mean, Klaus. Well, I mean, the wonderful thing about Klaus and International Publishing is that he never stopped publishing books which he knew wouldn't sell here. I mean, so often he'd say to me, and I said, "Oh, that's a wonderful book." He said, "Oh, it won't sell." And he knew it wouldn't sell, but he would publish it nonetheless because he thought we should see what a French picture book looked like. He was educating us all the time, and that education was made us more international, kept us close to Europe. It was very important.
I think it's the problem to guessing what would sell, isn't it? I mean, to be honest, honestly, I'm not interested what's trendy. I kind of do what I like, and that's so it doesn't bother me. But you know, sometimes you can see, you know, people, I don't know, Oliver Jeffers or everybody using the same writing. You know, it's kind of fashionable things. It's happening. Lots of people does it, but I don't know. But if everybody keeps saying this wouldn't sell, then it wouldn't get into the shop, and that's a shame.
That's why you need publishers who'll take risks.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel sometimes I'm a bit like in the middle. I've been told same things like that.
Yeah.
I have a few meetings with Spanish publishers, and they told me like, "Oh, we can see that you've been in England too long. You're too Cambridge." I was like, okay. And then here, somehow publishers are interested in my work, but they always sweeten up. Well, at the moment, they always try to bring my work to the more commercial side, because it's like, oh, this is too edgy, this end is too dark. So I feel like sometimes in the middle, where in Spain it's like, oh, this will sell because it's more commercial than we will usually do, but I think they, like what you say, they take more risk in Spain or France or Italy. But then here, I feel I'm too edgy sometimes, so it's quite, I feel like in the middle. I don't know if that's...
Stick with Goya.
Well, my other half keep telling me that I need to go to the dark side and do like dark stuff.
Anybody else got a question? Question over there. Thank you.
As artists, do you feel like you have something in your life that you do every day to keep going as a creative? Because, you know, some of us take walks, some of us go for drives, some of us, I don't know, get our children ready for school, and that kind of just keeps us going. What do you do in every day to kind of get you ready to draw the stories that you do?
Right now, I'm in a bit of crazy moment because I just became a mom a year ago. So I'm trying to balance what I do, how to work while I'm taking care of a little one. But sometimes I go swimming. That is my space where it's just me and I'm just trying to think. I have also a dog, which it helps to go, like, I live next to the countryside, so I go for a walk and just listen to the birds and nothing else. I don't even have the music on. Yeah, I think that is my moment to come down and maybe just think in where I need to go and work. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like walking. I walk the same walk by the river, so I know everything, so I know I won't trip over. I can think and look around, and then I do paint. I have big paper, same size, and when I'm working on the book, and I have a bit of time, I just do anything. I just came from school today when I was working with children, and we collage little picture into my big paintings, and I found these drawings so inspiring. So sometimes I would perhaps do a copy of that drawing, just to kind of, you know, I don't illustrate like this, but I copy, I put things on the Instagram. So if you have an Instagram, have a look. I have a big drawing of elephant, something what children will do, you know, just kind of experience, just for fun. So that makes me relax, just paint on the big format and play with the shape, really. And then I get back into the nice little drawing. But you are illustrator yourself, very good illustrator. So surely you have some routine as well, don't you?
Yeah, just really curious what everyone else does.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own method to their own madness. And I like to walk too, so
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear I'm not the only one.
No, I walk when I write. So when I think about text, then I walk, and sometimes say something on the phone. But it's great, yeah.
And so, just quickly thinking about this thing of you working with children and you just having had your baby last year, we talk about children's books as, we talk about illustrated books being, we think of them being for children. Do you think about children when you create what you're doing?
Is it bad if I say no?
No, it's good if you say no. When I first started working children's books, all the best children's books editors didn't have children, and you don't need to know children, if you see what I mean, or to know childhood.
I don't know anything about children, and I'm absolutely terrified about them. I started to do school visits, and when the last one that I did, it was 100 kids, and when I saw them coming, I was like, oh my god, I don't know what to say. So I think when I start drawing, I draw what I know or I'm curious or passionate about, and then I hope they like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you started doing them when your children were small, didn't you?
That's right, yeah. But same as you, I don't think about children. In fact, I have maybe one or two friends. When I do the book, I'm thinking what she or he would say if they see the picture book. So, but otherwise, I have a great respect for children. I think they are as intelligent as we are, but they just don't have as much experience as we do. So they are just equal, really, to me. So I find them very inspiring, and I have a great respect for them. But when I write a book, I write it for myself.
Yeah. Any more questions? Question over there.
Hello. I just had a question about sort of the pressure that I think I see some young illustrators under to sort of develop a recognisable style quite early on. And I guess that's sort of linked to what we were talking about before about this sort of commercial pressure, because in some ways having a recognisable style, that's, a kind of like a brand that you can sell. But I think there's a real benefit to be able to continue to explore and experiment. What's your experience of that?
I'm a master on this. When I finished my course in illustration in Spain, that was my obsession. We have visits from people like Ana Juan and big names in Spain, and they all have such a distinctive visual language that I was obsessed, probably like every other student. I was like, I want to, and I was working so hard, but I think at the end of the day, it's just experience, because I'm not sure if I have a voice, or sometimes I feel I'm a little bit like, how you say, Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I don't know if I look all the time the same, but I just try to do what I do. But I think you focus when you finish your studies to have a visual language and a voice that everyone recognizes you. But I think that actually comes through work and keep working, and that at the end it shows. You just need to keep drawing, and that will come. And I think it's quite important not to look at other people's works, because I think sometimes you see books in the bookshops that is like, God, that is another Oliver Jeffers, and I actually not sure how that get published, because it's quite obvious. Maybe that's me being very critical, but I think it's just important to keep trying to do your own thing without looking at other people's work.
Well, you are very good, because your style is so distinguished. You are, it's brilliant. You are,
thanks.
You put first three books, and they're actually the same books. I mean, not everybody can say that. You can see that people's style would, of course, you will develop it, or change, perhaps. But at the time, it seems like you know exactly what you want and what you do, and you do it well. That's great. But I think if you are not honest in your work, then you can copy somebody, but it will be rubbish. You must know that. So just being honest. It's okay to get inspired, by the way, by somebody else. It's perfectly okay. but you have to be honest in your work, and it will. The form, I always say, my daughter, she's also, you know, painter, and I'm saying the form will finally find you. You know, if you keep working, it will happen. You will find your form, and then you have to leave it and try something else. You know, the kind of hunger of developing and trying something new. That's the great way to do it, I suppose. But you shouldn't look for form. You shouldn't look for style. It should find you. It sounds like a cliche, but I really mean it. It's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking of how all writers say, you know, they're magpies and they borrow and steal from other people and then sort of turn it into their own thing. And I'm assuming much the same of illustration, that you do see things that inspire you and you pinch bits of it, but
That's
you have to
what
have
I
the
mean when I'm saying
integrity.
inspiring.
Yeah, and then you have to make it your own.
Yeah. To be honest, like in the picture books, like coming up with a new idea for the story, it's never going to happen. Everything goes, you know, it's just the way how you do it, how you interpret the idea, you know. Because, as we said, children are limited with their life experience, so they always be very similar things. You can, subjects in the picture books, but the way how you do it is different. How you say the same story. Yeah.
I think we should stop. I think that's been a most amazing conversation and wonderful questions from the floor. Thank you very much. And Petr and Mariajo are going to be around here in this space, and the books are for sale at the back. That's the books that were on the long list. And yes, so thank you all very, very much for coming and for this wonderful celebration of picture books, which we can't talk enough about. Thank you very much.